Welcome to Fearless with Jason Whitlock. I am Jason Whitlock, your host. Happy Monday, and you're in the right place because we're gonna have the greatest show, the best show on this entire women's Final Four debacle anywhere. Can you believe it? We're actually talking about women's basketball. But we are. That's what we're going to do today. This whole Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, LSU, Iowa deal has turned into the most fascinating story of the college basketball, March Madness, of all of college sports. And we're going to get into it because, not just because it's fun, because it's serious. There's some serious issues playing out here with this entire thing. Some of it along the same lines of stuff we talk about on this show all the time. Some of it a little different angle on topics we talk about all the time. I'm going to have a lot to say about it with a fire starter. Then I'm going to let some of the fearless soldiers come in. Jason Brown, Steve Kim, Shemeka Michelle, Royce White, TJ Moe. They all have their own takes on this situation, and I want to hear from them as well. I invite you all to hop into the comments starting right now. This is a hot button issue, people's opinions all over the board. I have my opinion, and I'm dead 1,000% right, but I'm open to hearing anybody else's opinion, including yours. So hop in the comments, hop in the likes. We need to crush the likes. This is going to be the best discussion of this issue anywhere. I saw them talking about it this morning on The View. Of course, they didn't know what they were talking about. I made the mistake of peeking over to ESPN and Fox Sports. Of course, they didn't know what they were talking about. I've been on the internet since yesterday, or since Twitter since yesterday. No one there knows what they're talking about. You're in the right place, in the right location for a conversation about this where all angles will be covered, all perspectives will be covered, and then you'll get my take and you'll know what to think about it because you heard me. And now you'll sound like the smartest person in the world about any and all of this. So start pounding that like button. I'm not kidding. Crush the like button. This show's worth 10,000 likes. I want to get there. I want to challenge you guys. We got to fight the algorithm. Hit the notification so you're getting notified when this show starts. Some of you haven't hit that alert. You're not getting the notifications. It's very important as we fight the algorithm for you to do that as well. Hop in the comments. If you're listening over Apple, we definitely deserve a 5-star review for this show. I want to set a record for comments that I read on Apple specifically about this show. So I want you to hit the 5-star review, but I also want you to write. We need like 30 reviews. I need 30 people to step up and just write a little review about this show, about how great it was and how, man, Whitlock really told me and taught me and helped me understand what to think about this Iowa LSU situation. You don't even have to kid. You can rip me in there if you want. I don't care. But just write something. I want 30 that will be dated as being written, today, Monday, April the 3rd. I want 30 people to volunteer to go in there and write a review about this show in particular, about the show in general. Hit that 5-star review. I need 100 5-star reviews on Apple today. All right. So before I do all that, before I treat you all to the greatest show ever, I want to treat you all to what I've been doing to help lose weight and get back into shape. And part of my routine has been Nugenix. Guys, feel like it's harder to get in shape and stay in shape? Our sponsor, Nugenix Total T, is offering a complimentary bottle when you text 231231 and enter the keyword fearless. A free bottle. All you got to do is text 231231. Getting older is a big adjustment. It gets hard to stay healthy. It gets much easier to get that early Whitlock, that fat body, that body I had, 90 pounds ago before I started carving this fat off myself. Well, if you want to be Jason Thinlock, I got something that'll help you, and it's Nugenix. As we men, our body naturally loses free testosterone. I call it the alpha hormone. It happens to every man, so don't worry. However, what if I told you that you can counter the negative physical effects of aging? Nugenix Total T Testosterone Booster with Testofen will help you turn back the clock, re-energize your workouts, and get you better results at the gym and help you look and feel like the man you really want to be. Nugenix Total T is the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. While every product professes quality, many other products use generic ingredients that are often far less than clinical grade. With Nugenix Total T, you get the same clinical potency levels used in the trials, and Nugenix formulation is backed by 10 years of science research. Nugenix Total T can help re-energize your life and help you get back the powerful, confident, good-looking warrior you used to be. Now get a complimentary bottle. Complimentary of Nugenix Total T when you text FEARLESS to 231-231. Text now and get a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, their most powerful fat incinerator ever, with key ingredients to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. You know how you get it absolutely free? Text FEARLESS to 231-231. It's that easy. 231-231, FEARLESS. Texting enrolls you into a recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply. Now, are you ready for the greatest show in Fearless history? I'm about to give it to you. Let's start with this fire starter, and then we're going to bring in Coach JB, Jason Brown. I think will be first up. I know he watched this stuff and has some opinions on it, but we'll see if his opinions align with mine. The basketball establishment is reacting to Caitlin Clark much the same way the golf establishment reacted to Tiger Woods 25 years ago. Most of the establishment is overjoyed. They see the opportunity, attention, and cash the Iowa basketball star can bring to the women's game. And then there's the contingent of bigots, the people fearful Clark's ascension will diminish them. South Carolina head coach Don Staley and LSU center Angel Reese are the leaders of the latter group. They're Fuzzy Zoeller. Tiger Woods triggered Zoeller. You remember Fuzzy. He won the 1979 Masters and the 1984 U.S. Open. More than those victories, Zoeller is remembered for the racist and mean-spirited comments he made toward Tiger Woods during the final round of the 1997 Masters. Let me refresh your memory of how Fuzzy Zoeller responded when Tiger was on the brink of winning his first Masters.
He's doing quite well. Pretty impressive. Little boy's driving it well, he's putting well. He's doing everything it takes to win. So you know what you guys do when he gets in here? Pat him on the back, say congratulations, enjoy it, and tell him not to serve fried chicken next year. Got it. All right. Or collard greens or whatever the hell they say.
That's Fuzzy Zoeller. Yeah, that's him snapping his fingers and talking about collard greens or whatever the hell they serve. Yeah, that's Fuzzy. Caitlin Clark, a white basketball star dominating a black sport, triggered Don Staley and Angel Reese. Clark's Hawkeyes upset Staley's #1 ranked South Carolina team Friday night in the semifinals of the Final Four. Following the game, Staley deflected attention away from her coaching errors and Clark's magnificent performance by complaining that unnamed reporters called South Carolina players thugs and monkeys. Staley framed Iowa coach Lisa Bluder's harmless comment about a rebounding bar fight as racist. Take a listen.
Times other coaches, your colleagues, have sitting in that spot and talked about you all being bullies. What's the truth about your team?
The truth about our team, okay? It's a good question, okay? We're not bar fighters. We're not thugs. We're not monkeys. We're not street fighters. This team exemplifies how you need to approach basketball on the court and off the court. And I do think that that's sometimes brought into the game, and it hurts. Okay, and I do think that some of I'm gonna say it because I said I was gonna say it, whether we lost or whether we won. some of the people in the media, when you're gathering in public, you're saying things about our team and you're being heard and it's being brought back to me. Okay? And these are the people that write nationally for our sport. So you can not like our team, okay? You can not like me, but when you say things that you probably should be saying in your home, on the phone, or texting out in public, and you're being heard, and you are a national writer for our sport, it just confirms what we already know. So watch what you say when you're in public and you're talking about my team in particular. Just watch what you say about our team, because it's wrong.
So I want you all to think about what it is we just heard. This is a woman sitting on a stage preaching to and trying to control the thoughts, words, actions of other people that are out to dinner having a conversation. And again, we have to take her at her word. She didn't put any name on any of this. She just smeared everybody. Some national right. And the media is such cowards, they're allowing her to smear everybody. I don't know who the national writers are that cover women's college basketball. They probably work for ESPN, or maybe they work for The Athletic. I don't know. But she just smeared them all because she didn't put a name on anything. We're just supposed to take her word that some conversation happened where allegedly her team, again, if you follow her line, somebody called them monkeys, someone called them thugs. This whole bar fight thing she's talking about is the Iowa coach at a press conference before the semifinal game praising Don Staley's team's ability to offensive rebound and how physical they are. And she said specifically that, going for rebounds is like getting into a bar fight, and you just got to get in that mindset because they're so good at it. This is just someone talking about a physical team imposing their size advantage and strength advantage over another team. There was a size disparity. They got a 6'7" kid coming off the bench at South Carolina. They got a 6'5" starting center who's likely going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, and it's Aaliyah Boston. And so a coach talking coach speak says bar fight, and Don Staley sits on a platform with the whole national media watching and paying attention and basically calls Iowa's coach a racist. And then these unnamed reporters, they're out calling us monkeys and thugs. Really? Really? That's what's happening. And you can make those type of allegations. If this is what's called a conspiracy theory. She's offering up no evidence. She's just rattling off at the mouth some narrative that everybody wants to hear and that she knows the media will gobble up. She invented this entire racial narrative out of thin air. And of course, corporate media did what it does. It sold Staley's lies and gossip. A white reporter egged Staley on, suggesting that the unsubstantiated criticism of Staley's players was dangerous. Watch.
Don, Aaliyah talked about there's a narrative with this team, this particular one, about their physicality. Do you think it worked against you guys tonight? And if so, how annoying is that?
Yeah. I mean, I do think with all the talk of how we play and the physical nature in which we play, and the description of our team, I do think it plays a part. And people got to do what they got to do to win. But I'm not gonna stoop that low. I'm not gonna talk about teams, and I'm not gonna talk about players. We got work to do. We've won a lot of basketball games doing it this way. We'll win a lot more because we're not changing. We're not gonna change just because people are saying what they say about our team.
How dangerous is that narrative? I mean, we're talking about young women, we're talking about athletes, and we're talking
about black athletes too. I mean, how difficult it is? It's very difficult.
And how dangerous?
Yeah. It's very dangerous. But sports is a microcosm of our society, and sometimes there are hurdles you just can't cross. It is what it is, but we're gonna keep pushing forward because that's what we do. We're built for it, and I think that's probably the attitude that people take is we can handle it, we're built for it, this is what we do. But a night like tonight, you really can't overcome it.
So there it is. This dangerous name-calling descriptions is what they couldn't overcome. That's what it was. When Iowa completely backed away from all of its shooters and was just daring their shooters to shoot and clogging the lane, it was the dangerous narrative that stopped South Carolina from making any of those shots. And that you couldn't see the little white woman off to the side that was selling this BS. How dangerous is it, Don? It's just so dangerous. Oh, their lives are in jeopardy. Oh my God. It's just so dangerous. And Don Staley's sitting here co-signing, letting this white woman do all this virtue signaling and sell this line of BS. Oh, it's so dangerous. And this is what irritates me about Don Staley. Because long before she was this pampered, coddled millionaire coach, she knows what danger really looks like and what's really dangerous. And it ain't reporters gossiping at a dinner at night. Again, everybody, oh, it's so dangerous. I just couldn't imagine. They called you firefighters. Crips and Bloods can run up and down any street they want in the black community and shoot up whoever they want. And you'll never hear this little white woman, oh, it's so dangerous in Chicago. Oh, it's just so dangerous with the Crips and the Bloods. That ain't dangerous. White reporters sitting at lunch gossiping about Don Staley's team. That's dangerous. These people don't live in reality. And we just keep inventing racial narrative after race to justify and anything. Oh my God. This little white girl, Caitlin Clark, comes in and busts y'all's head wide open. They leave y'all to shoot any shot you want and you can't win. And you want to sit there, oh, it's just so dangerous. My players couldn't play because reporters were gossiping about them. And Lisa Bluter, the coach of Iowa, said we were firefighters. It's just so dangerous. I mean, how do we do this? How? Now, a group of rappers can sit around and call black women every name in the book, can talk about raping them, can talk about slapping them, could talk about anything. None of that's dangerous. That's just good dance music. But oh my God, with reporters and and so we're off in gossip land. I haven't seen this, and correct me, and I could be wrong, I could not be thinking, but do we really have athletes now holding press conferences about gossip? I mean, could you imagine LeBron James? I mean, and he's probably the wrong example because he gossiped about what happened at his front gate. But could you imagine Michael Jordan or any of these other athletes sitting up going, man, I heard that Karl Malone and John Stockton were out to dinner the other night, and I heard they said something, but my mama wore combat boots. You know how dangerous that is? But again, they're turning sports into The View, into desperate housewives, desperate basketball players, and it's just gossip and innuendo. The LSU players followed the lead of Dawn Staley, picked up right where she left off. The Tigers claimed they were disrespected and upset about the way Iowa defended South Carolina. I think that through. I'm not joking. The LSU players before the championship game were saying that they felt disrespected by the way Iowa did them a favor and eliminated South Carolina from the tournament. Iowa did them a favor because if South Carolina had won, LSU wouldn't be the national champions. But somehow they were disrespected by the way Iowa defended LSU. Now I got to hat tip Kim Mulkey, and I just transparency. I consider Kim Mulkey a friend. Have known her, I believe, since Brittany Griner's freshman year. I consider Kim Mulkey a friend. Here's what I think Kim Mulkey baited her team into following along in Dawn Staley's footsteps and buying into this racial narrative. I don't really respect it. Again, I like and respect Kim Mulkey. Don't like the energy her and her team tapped into here, but I don't blame her. She's a coach. She's gonna take any advantage she can. And if that's what will spark and drive her players to go out and want to destroy Iowa, most coaches would do it. If y'all want to pretend like Iowa is the KKK, if that will get y'all to beat Iowa and defend Caitlin Clark, have at it, ladies. Here's a little tape of Caitlin Clark talking smack. Y'all want to spin this in some type of racial narrative? Hey, Don, could you call my team and tell them how racist Iowa is? And so coaches will do anything. But you'll just never convince me that in any authentic way that the fact that South Carolina wasn't defended along the perimeter somehow was disrespectful to LSU. But that was offered as part of the justification for Reese stalking and taunting Clark at the conclusion of LSU's victory in Sunday's championship game. Now, Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy and political pundit Keith Olbermann responded to Reese's classless taunting by topping Reese's lack of class via Twitter. Portnoy called Reese a piece of poop, and Olbermann called Reese a effing idiot. Portnoy and Olbermann's tweets justified ESPN's Jalen Rose connecting the criticism of Reese to Staley's post-game whining. Jalen Rose tweeted, "How Angel Reese is being vilified by many highlights exactly what Dawn Staley was talking about." No, it actually highlights the stupidity and lack of emotional control of Portnoy and Olbermann. It highlights how social media has ruined public discourse and baits people into dismissing common sense and restraint. If Twitter existed in 1997, I'm sure I would have called Fuzzy Zoeller a piece of poop or an effing idiot. Luckily, I had editors and I wrote a rational column explaining the obvious animus, jealousy, and bigotry motivating Zoeller's comments. Most people in mainstream media rebuked Fuzzy Zoeller in 1997. But we don't live in 1997 anymore. And so that's not the case as it relates to Angel Reese in 2023. Most of the corporate media are afraid to criticize Reese. She's black, everyone fears the race card, and so people like Ryan Clark preemptively played the race card via Twitter. Here's what Clark, the ESPN broadcaster, former football player, and former LSU football player, here's what he said. If you praise Caitlin Clark as competitive, fiery, and passionate for doing the "You can't see me" celebration and are criticizing Angel Reese for the same, we already know. So what do we actually know? We know that Caitlin Clark briefly waved her hand in front of her face in the Elite Eight game against Louisville. The gesture wasn't directed at any particular player. Clark claims it was directed at an Iowa assistant coach. Take a listen for yourself.
The shrug. The shrug. Here, the shrug. We got, well, this is new, like right here. Do you get in it? No, I don't like to do it. I wasn't doing it to other people. I was doing it to one of our coaches. Like I was like, not the coach. I'm not face. No, our coach. I'm not face. Right here. Yeah, right here. Yeah, right there. Good. Do you like?
That's Caitlin Clark before any Final Four game was played. That's her before this was even remotely controversial. That was her explaining what happened at Louisville. Go watch the tape. They're just not the same. What we know about Clark is she plays with a bravado, a style, and an air of cockiness that mirrors Golden State Warriors guard Steph Curry. Clark is a bit of a hot dog. We know that. Hot dogs are annoying, not classless. I'm not really a fan of either, but one is worse than the other. What Reese did was classless. Reese reminds me of college football stars Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield. The two Heisman Trophy winners were widely criticized for their on-air, on-field antics. No one called the criticism racist because Manziel and Mayfield are white. In America, it's appropriate to criticize the poor behavior of white people. We rationalize and sometimes even celebrate the poor behavior of black people. Let's watch what happened to Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield in real time and how they were criticized in real time.
Like conduct, number 2 of the offense, 15-yard penalty, will have the try.
Well, a lot of people on college football that are kind of tired of this. Is that really necessary? You just proved yourself in what you did on the field. That's twice now. Now, we did see some guys harassing him in the first half, faking as if they were signing autographs, and that got Johnny upset. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. That happens every.
So, just so we're on the same page, that's in real time as the games are being broadcast. They're being called out and criticized. Those aren't broadcasters taking to Twitter minutes after the game, hours after the game, and criticizing Baker Mayfield and Johnny Manziel. That's in real time. That's what happened. Go listen to what was said on ABC during the game, after the game, on ESPN. Everything about Angel Reese's behavior was celebrated. No one offered an ounce of criticism. Two idiots, Portnoy and Olbermann, said something inappropriate over Twitter. A bunch of people, not corporate media types, but a bunch of people, Danny Cannell, Danny Cannell's left corporate media, but he's been a media figure. A few people called it classless because it was classless. And let's quit acting like it was the exact same thing. What Angel Reese did was the exact same thing as what Caitlin Clark did in the Louisville game. Do we have those clips? Portnoy put out a good piece of video content comparing what Caitlin Clark did and what Angel Reese did. One was a little 2-second blip. 1 second blip, maybe. The other, someone is stalking someone at the end of a championship game. Everybody's trying to say that there, with no Louisville player in sight in the picture, is the exact same as following someone around at the end of a championship game when everybody has basically stopped playing to taunt them. They're not the same thing. One of them lasts a second, one of them lasts 10 to 12 seconds, one of them involves an opponent, the other one doesn't. They're not the same thing. People are lying. But we rationalize and celebrate the behavior we desire and expect. We want black girls to handle success in a classless manner. We want young black people to prioritize their skin color above all else. Following Sunday's game, Angel Reese bragged about being ghetto and hood and inspiring other black girls to do the same. Take a listen.
I'm happy. I mean, all year I was critiqued about who I was. Nobody, the narrative, I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood, I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing. So this was for the girls that look like me, that's gonna speak up on what they believe in. It's unapologetically you. And that's what I did it for tonight. This was for it was bigger than me tonight. It was bigger than me. Twitter is gonna go in a rage every time. And I mean, I'm happy. I feel like I've helped grow women's basketball this year. I'm super happy and excited. So I'm looking forward to celebrating in the next season.
Let me break this truth. And again, this is why I go back to Fuzzy Zoeller and credit and just people worried about being diminished and being threatened by Caitlin Clark. Same thing Tiger Woods went through. This woman just said, I feel like I helped grow women's college basketball. I'm not saying this to be disrespectful, I'm just speaking it factually. No one knew who this woman was a week or two ago. Hardcore women's basketball people knew, but no one knew. The person growing the game is Caitlin Clark. It's clear as day. Everybody knows it. She's must-see TV. LSU's a nice team. Kim Mulkey's the star of that team, Kim Mulkey and her Jackets. But again, Angel Reese wants that credit. She grew the game this year. Cut it out. That's BS. That's just clout chasing, looking for credit. And she next year she might, because she's injected herself into the conversation by being this classless. But ain't nobody tuning in to see her 6'3" grab some offensive rebounds and throw them up towards the basket. She's not a skilled player. She's big. She's bigger than everybody else. Congrats. She won the genetics lottery and is using it to exploit women's college basketball. This other girl is skilled and fun to watch and a reason to tune in. Reese sounds as misinformed and bigoted as Fuzzy Zoeller. The game of basketball is dominated by black athletes. There's no shortage of basketball role models for black kids. There's a glut. What basketball lacks is a homegrown white American star who plays with flair and style. Basketball needs a Tiger Woods. Don Staley and Angel Reese would rather see the game forego the growth Clark can deliver than see the spotlight on a white star. We've seen all this before. It will be interesting to see if the bigots break Caitlin Clark. They couldn't break Tiger Woods. We'll see if this black girl is just as strong. I'm sorry. We'll see if this white girl is just as strong as Tiger Woods. All right, don't go anywhere. I've said what I wanted to say on this. We'll hear from others. But we'll start with JB, Jason Brown. Jason Brown, next. Atheists, the secular world, the culture uses our imperfection, our sins to shut up. You can't stand on truth. And if all it was imperfection, it eliminated us from standing on truth, this would be a very quiet place. I'm trying to be as loud as I can and as transparent as I can to try to inspire other men. We know you're imperfect. You know you're imperfect. God's grace and mercy gives you the right to stand on his truth and to speak that loudly into the culture, and we have to do that.
You can look around and say, these guys have taken over everything. They own the CDC, the NIH, they got the president. Is transgender surgery for children? Colleges today are nothing but leftist indoctrination centers working fully against the Bible. What's the alternative? So you're gonna stop fighting today and you're gonna let the government raise your kids? And you're gonna turn around and let them chop off your 12-year-old daughter's breasts and let them sterilize your son and tell him that he's a girl, and you're gonna let them make the Bible hate speech. You're the last line of defense here, because nobody else is gonna do it, and God's gonna walk with you. This is literally worth dying for. Absolutely. I'm telling you. So it's like everybody, that's a nice little metaphor. This is it. If there's a hill to die on, this is it.
The Overton window has been moved right in front of our children's bedrooms. And there are all types of people that are trying to climb up in the ladder. And every good father should be on his post so that when they peek their head up over the windowsill, you kick the ladder back down, let them know you move on to the other house, because we're not playing that around here.
Sometimes just standing up, just saying no, we're not going to do that. Not my marriage, not my kids, not my family, not my community, not my church, not my city. Just declaring that's victory enough. In prepping his disciples, he tells Peter, he's like, listen, Satan desires to sift you as wheat, but I've prayed for you. We're gonna face some ups and downs in life, and we're not gonna always get it together. But if we stay on the path, if we stay chasing after, running after Jesus, running after his way, he's even praying for us. Now, I like it when you pray for me, Jason and TJ. I appreciate that, but to have Jesus pray for me, that makes me feel pretty good. When you make it through this sifting process, go back and strengthen your brothers. So we all have a responsibility as men. Once he's delivered me through this, I have a responsibility to go back and bring some other folk out.
You do a roll call to just let people know you're not alone, be confident in your positions, and we're gonna inspire you. We're gonna eat, fellowship, listen to some music. It's gonna be the first of many roll calls that we do. So we're looking for soldiers. We're gonna put out our best recruiting pitches for soldiers. All right, welcome back. Jason Brown, I was told, has a very interesting take on this controversy. I don't know what it is. No one's tipped me off. JB, I've analogized this to Tiger Woods and Fuzzy Zoeller. Tiger Woods brought something completely different to the game of golf and dominated a sport dominated by white people, and he's a person of color, and that made people like Fuzzy Zoeller uncomfortable. I think we got the exact same thing going on here. White girl comes in dominating the black sport. These black girls are uncomfortable and jealous, and that's what's at the heart of all of this. Your take.
Jason, let me first start off by saying enabled and entitled kids have become America's nightmare. And it starts with the lack of accountable parenting and leadership. We either allow it or we coach it. I don't care if it's selling a car or a CEO of BP Oil or a football coach. We allow it or we coach it. And that starts with parenting in the household. It starts with parental guidance and what they allow and what they coach. I got to say this. I don't know when trash talking has become such a trending topic. I think over the weekend, I thought this is my personal take on this. We have weak leadership, Jason. So under weak leadership, you will have a lot of weak-minded individuals who have no concept of what team means. Together, everyone achieves more. We don't have that mindset. So we have made this a black versus white thing on Twitter this weekend over this Clark and Reeves thing, when in reality, it's really a competitive sporting contest, which includes barbershop banter. And Jason, you know what, as well as anyone, our locker rooms were basically a large locker room, a large barbershop that included barbershop banter. That is what started and created cohesiveness. It allowed us to bond as brothers in the locker room. Just as if you grow up in a barbershop environment, there's barbershop banter. There was never anything personal. I believe that football teams, basketball teams, and America, which it once was, I believe it was built on barbershop banter and mama's jokes. mama jokes were a thing. That nobody took it personal. That was what it was. Over the weekend, seeing all this hoopla on social media has blown my mind, but I have to revert back to, Jason, we are so soft now that when you allow Russell Westbrook and Devin Booker and Kyrie Irving to have heckling fans in opposing stadiums booted out for heckling you, you now know that this is just it's unfathomable to have any type of barbershop banter on a basketball court to occur without it being white or black or racially motivated or something like that. I find it hard-pressed, Jason. I'm very hard-pressed to find out or to think that these two girls were on the court yesterday disrespecting each other with racially motivated words. I don't believe that was happening. I believe they were back and forth jawing because olive oil-looking, 120-pound soaking wet white girl has been lighting up the NCAA tournament all tournament long, broke Glenn Rice's scoring record for men and women. And I believe when this was occurring and she beats Staley's, what's her name at South Carolina?
Don Staley.
She beats her, scoring 41. I didn't see Acho. I didn't see Ryan Clark. I didn't see Stephen A. I haven't seen anybody coming out talking about her lighting everybody up. And then and I'm going to be honest and fair like I am. I heard your take over the weekend about you becoming more MAGA-centered. I haven't gotten there yet. I'm more of an independent thinker. I gotta. You know me, Jason, I trust two people in the world. Me and the other one ain't you is my motto. Not you in particular, but you as the other person. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, we're in a bad state. We are in a bad state. Our leadership is absolutely so bad that our country is so divided between black and white, left and right, that we take this sport of any sport to a racially motivated topic. And it blows my mind that what happened to barbershop banter between players on a court or a field, and we get after it. I mean, this girl's been lighting everyone up, and now this girl for LSU said, I'm going to get in her mug, and I'm going to guard her for 40 minutes, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to point at the ring finger, and I'm going to do all this stuff. And then you have old people coming out like, this is how I want to segregate this or clarify. We have social media influencers, and no mistake about it, Jason. Keith Olbermann is now an influencer. He's not a media member. He is now an influencer and a content creator, just like Dave Portnoy at Barstool is. They have come out and used expletives towards this girl from LSU, and it's funny now that we're victimizing Caitlin Clark by Kendrick Perkins and Jefferson, and all these guys are making her the victim in this thing by just basically saying, listen, I'm just playing. I got a horrible fourth foul. I was basically set for having no type of real hard fouls. I was basically limited, and I still lit them up for a pretty good final game. But my overall take, Jason, is this. Sorry to ramble, but here's my take. I believe we have missed it. I think we've missed the fact of accountability. We have skipped over the accountable parties in this thing. We don't even go after the accountable party no more. We go after
JB, let me cut you to the chase. You're dancing too much here.
Yeah.
Who's the bad guy here? Or is one individual worse than the other? I believe Caitlin Clark is a hot dog, without question. She's a hot dog and plays in a way that gets underneath people's skin. I don't have a problem. It reminds me of Steph Curry. I believe what Angel Reese did at the end of that game was classless and over the top. She had already taunted the girl with about 2 minutes left to go. No one cared at the free throw line. Following this girl around at the end of the game over the top. Then all these comments after the game about disrespect and blah, 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 and I'm too hood and I'm too ghetto and I did this for the black girls or the girls that look like me. All this racial stuff, hot garbage. I'm going to go a step further where I think you are going, but you're tiptoeing. I do blame Kim Mulkey for allowing this. Kim Mulkey's a friend of mine. She won't like me saying this, but I do blame Kim Mulkey. Bad leadership and built of the desperation of LSU dropping the bag on Kim Mulkey to get her to come home and then dropping the bag on that team to get them to come play for her. That team was put together over the last 18, 20 months through name, image, and likeness. That's not some recruited team specifically to LSU. That's a name, image. That's the first NIL transfer portal team to win a championship. There was so much pressure on Kim Mulkey. She don't care what them girls did as long as they won a championship, and that's what that looked like to me.
And that's where I was getting. I talked about it on my show. We have skipped over the accountability factor. There is people that are responsible, all right? You know, your producers are responsible for airing this show. You're accountable for what you say on the show. I don't believe people understand that. We have gone after a 20-year-old, two 20-year-olds on the court, but we have totally skipped over the accountable people here. And I totally agree with you. This teacher and coach, mentor of a lot of young women, walks around in shiny tiger outfits, and I want to be clear here. I want to be sure. Somebody is allowing this to happen on that court, because if it wasn't, I don't remember you, Jason, when you were growing up, but were you ever awarded for bad behavior? I wasn't. I was pulled off the court or the field. This girl either is being taught this, being allowed to do it, or this is their swag. This is their deal. Like you said, NIL money bought this team. So why would she pull the rank? This is their team. This is their makeup. This is their DNA. So she has allowed this, and we haven't talked about this coach one time in the media. And I'm sitting there blown away all weekend long, like, why are we just talking about this kid? Because if the kid was doing it on my team, I would be getting castrated over it. I would be getting blown away in the social. Oh, Coach Brown allowed it. Well, what is she doing? She's prancing around, chasing a referee on the sideline, by the way, and there was nothing called on her. And then we throw out this girl that's been lighting up the tournament, and I'm just sitting here like, wait up. The accountability factor in America has been lost, and that is why we have such a divided situation going on, and why we're so quick to go left and right, black and white, instead of saying, you know what? There's a leader out there of women, and she has been totally excluded from this. And that is where the accountability factor is blowing me away. I don't go after.
No question about it, JB. Again, Kim Mulkey is someone I like and respect and have for a long time. She's a great coach. This is what happens, though, when you take that big bag of money that's to leave Baylor. There's a lot of pressure. And then when they spend a bag putting your team together, there's a lot of pressure. And so then you start coming out of character and allowing things you previously wouldn't have allowed, because you have to justify all that money that was spent. And so rather than them dropping to their knees and saying, thank you, Iowa, thank you. You eliminated South Carolina. We had no chance of beating South Carolina. Thank you, Caitlin Clark. Now we can get this trophy. I'm just keeping it real. I bet South Carolina because I knew it was going to be a blowout. And it's not because I had any disrespect for Iowa. It's just like they got away with getting crushed on the boards against South Carolina, because I'm just keeping it real. I don't care if people don't like it, because Don Staley can't coach. Don Staley made no adjustments, let her ego get in the way, let her racism get in the way of saying, you know what, we got to guard this little white girl better than what we're doing, and we got to adjust some things for this little white girl to stop her from getting to the paint at will. It wasn't the three-point shots that was killing them. She's got a 6'7", 6'5" front line, and this little white girl is getting to the rim. She shot 6, 7, 8 layups. That's how she scored most of her points. And Don Staley had no adjustment. So they take advantage, but that would have worked against LSU, and LSU knows it, and they should have been thankful that Don Staley coached poorly and that those girls played lights out, but instead they go down the lane of, we hate this all-white Iowa team and their little white star, and we feel disrespected because they refuse to guard South Carolina. And yet, trust me, Kim Mulkey don't believe none of that, but she was more than willing to let her players take motivation from that because she needed that championship to justify all that money that was spent on her and that team.
And let me end it with you like this. I've kind of equated this thing through not just this situation, but a lot of things that have been happening lately. I believe these coaches now, from youth Pop Warner to AAU to basketball, high school, football, high school, and then into college, the coaches now have to be somewhat in tune with the culture, quote unquote. We now have to be in tune with the culture, meaning who we recruit and our players, which is, 80% African-American black players in college football and basketball, NBA as well, NFL as well. So what are the coaches doing now? Instead of being leaders, mentors, and coaches and teachers, they have become fans. And now they have to be cool with their players instead of leading them and teaching them. Now they're their homies, if I may, and they're boys and they're girls. And we're seeing it not only in coaching and athletics, we're seeing it in the classroom. We're seeing it with principals and administrators. We're seeing it in our government officials. It is becoming so bad that we're allowing this to continue and get it out of hand, and it is imploding. And we're seeing it at all-time rate. And we're trying to be cool instead of being the person that tells them the harsh reality.
JB, good point to end on. Great job. Thank you. You guys better be hitting that likes, and we better be getting close to 10,000 likes. I'm giving you gold that you will not hear anyplace else. Look, I done told y'all, and this will be another one where some idiot over Twitter will be like, man, Whitlock only criticizing the black people. Kim Mulkey and I have been friends for, I don't know, maybe 15 years or whatever Brittany Griner's freshman year is. I like Kim Mulkey. I really do. Respect her. Think she's a great coach. Don't like the way she coached this team. And her behavior on the sidelines is what makes Angel Reese think she can do what she did after the game. But just keep it, I only criticize black people. Just remember that. I never criticize anybody close to me, anybody I know. And I don't do that. I'm very biased. I'm bought and paid for. Glenn Beck tells me what to say. Shemeka Michelle next.
Regrets in our decisions, we all want to go to heaven with freedom. It's my obligation, no hate, discrimination, raising up your hands for freedom.
All right, welcome back. Look, I'm just keeping it real today. People may not like me today, but they better give me 10,000 likes. You better be slamming that like button. But I'm just going to continue to keep it real. What you're about to see in this next segment is the nature of women and how sneaky and clever they think they are. I've already seen a preview before we call up Shemeka. I've already seen Shemeka on camera. She knows she's about to disagree with me, so what does she do? She brings her A game. Shemeka couldn't look any better than what she's about to look on camera right now This is intentional, trying to distract me so she thinks I'm not going to combat the things she says that I disagree with as aggressively because she looks so good. But Shemeka, I'm 10 steps ahead of you. Welcome to the show. I know. Go ahead and say your silly things, and I'm going to point it out. I don't care how good you look. I'm going to point it out. Go ahead.
Well, thank you, Jason. You know, I would say I have no problem with either one of these girls doing whatever they did, talking whatever trash they talked during these games. And people are saying, oh, the game was over. Listen, it's not over till the fat lady sings. There were still seconds on the clock. If this is what Angel felt like she needed to get off her chest, I'm saying do it, say it. Is it classless? By definition, yes, it's crass. What I'm saying is, so what? All of this social, emotional learning that we're bringing into sports is just boring. We want everybody to be sweet and be nice. And I hear the whole poor sportsmanship thing, but I just grew up in a different time, Jason. When I was a cheerleader, we had this saying, hey, you finna shoot. You think you mighty cute, but you not. So miss that shot. You know, or if the opposing team, their cheerleaders came out on the floor, once they were finished, we would stand up as if we were applauding them and we would say, yay, sit down. Like this was the type of sportsmanship that I'm used to. Just, you know, when the game is going on, it's a battle, it's a competition, and anything goes. We had this star player who went on to go, you know, play pro. He had a poor SAT score. We remember the other schools said SAT. SAT, you know, it was taunting, it was chanting the players, the fans, and that's just what it was. And I think everybody getting so upset, you know, I wouldn't make it a black or white issue. I would say slam. Let the girls be boys. They already act masculine as it is. We're going to see some of this type of behavior. Boys, girls, just let them have fun. Let them compete. Let them be classless. Let them be competitive. If they aren't hitting one another, if they aren't saying, you know, outrageous racial slurs or whatever, to me, it's fine and it's entertainment. And I wish we would just let them have at it.
And so, you know, you just came at everything, and that was a far better argument than I was anticipating. So you brought your A game mentally and physically. I got to hat tip you for that. But here's the facts. You're coming at it from a cheerleader fan perspective. There's a different set of expectations for competitors. You don't do this. This is no different. Again, you may be too young, but when Tiger Woods won the Masters, that's when Fuzzy Zoeller is talking about don't feed them fried chicken and all that other stuff. That's not classy. That's not appropriate for the actual competitors. Do I think fans? Because I used to be a hardcore fan, and I used to be, a hardcore Pacer fan, and I would rip the Pacers as much as I would rip the opposition when I went to games or any Pacer-related event. I'm for fans taunting and doing anything. If LSU fans had wanted to taunt Caitlin and do all this, perfect sense, no problem with it. But a competitor on the court, if that's, because again, it's just going to get, once you allow that among competitors, it's never going to stop. And the next thing you know, these girls are going to be pulling each other's hair out and fighting. We saw it. I played the clip, I think, last week of the Memphis girl in the NIT. In the handshake line, cold-cocked a little white girl. No one wanted to talk about it because, again, if it had been a white girl that cold-cocked a black girl, everybody would talk about it. But no one wanted to talk about it. We were the only ones to address it. But again, if you allow this, that type of behavior is going to become commonplace among athletes. You're going to have constant chaos and constant bad conduct from the players that will go too far.
Yeah, I definitely think what happened last week was going too far. I just don't think this was going too far for me, Jason. Her pointing to her ring finger and doing the same little John Cena move, it wasn't going too far for me. And the buzzer hadn't sounded yet. So I thought it was fine, even for players. I just think that we want these players to be so nice. And even the clips that you showed during your monologue, I didn't have an issue with it, but that's just me. And maybe you're right. It's because I was a cheerleader or a fan. I just think we have watered down everything, and society in general has just become too soft. I remember going to my daughter's school when she was in elementary school for field day, and they played tug of war. And when one side won, I can remember the teacher reprimanding the winning side for cheering and being so excited and telling the kids, no, there were no losers here. There was a first and second place. It's tug of war. You either win or you lose, period. And I don't see, why would you reprimand kids from saying loser? I mean, that's just me. I think it's fine. Even if my child was on the losing side, which she has been, if you lose, you come back and play a better game next time. If you are taunted, that should make you want to come back and play a better game next time. I just think as a society, we've become soft, and I don't see the problem with it, male or female. If there's no fighting, if there's, she acted like, we're acting like she knocked her mama off her shoulder. Back in the old days, you would put something up there and say, I bet you won't knock my mama off my shoulder. She didn't do that. It was just some gestures, and I think it should have been fine.
Shemeka, you did far better than I anticipated. I was not prepared for you to have any logical points. You did have some. Good job, but
Thank you.
I still won the argument. I'm still on the right side. Thank you. You look awesome today. All right, give me 10,000 likes. Even if it's not for me, give it for Shemeka. Perhaps she represented your side of the argument. We'll see what Steve Kim has to say next.
모두 다 빨리 박수 쳐 기다리지 말고 서둘러 Reason that I'm back is to feed you raps I see that you are 배불러 So fly
All right, welcome back. Let's roll out to Los Angeles and bring in the Asian Caitlin Clark, Steve Kim, the Korean Caitlin Clark. He's our hot dog here. He's the guy that triggers everybody. Steve Kim, whose side you on in the Caitlin Clark Angel Reese dispute?
It's funny. Well, the funniest thing was when you yesterday called me saying, Steve, did you see that game? And I said, what game? When you said women's college basketball, I was like, really? I was like, yeah, I can't see that, and I won't see that. But anyway, I've been kind of debating this as I've been watching all the Twitter back and forth thing. And, it'd be hypocritical of me as someone that grew up as a diehard or became a diehard Miami Hurricanes fan in the 1980s and 90s, that how I enjoyed the taunting, the dancing, the showboating, the trash talk. I mean, the whole 1991 Cotton Bowl where they went above and beyond the levels of entertainment. So in the immortal words of the late, great Jerome Brown, to paraphrase him, fellas, I got one question. Did the Japanese sit down and have dinner before Angel Reese said, you can't see me? Then fellas, let's go. So, but I don't mind it. But here's the question that I have. Are people not allowed to like it just because it's a young black female? I actually have no issues with Danny Cannell, Portnoy, or Oberman. We can be outraged. Now, I happen to actually disagree. I actually think that they went overboard. But you know what? If they think it's classless and not sportsmanlike, and they think she's a piece of you-know-what, guess what? Let's let them have that opinion and debate it. We are not allowed to express our true opinions. If you really want to have honest discourse and actually discuss these things honestly and rationally, let's not guilt people into agreeing with us and just claim racism. Honestly, let's actually say if that's the way you feel and you want to delve into it, let them have their feelings and let them explain their position.
That's an interesting take that I can't disagree with. What do you think about the argument, and Shannon Sharpe made it and others have made it, that Caitlin Clark did the exact same thing and no one said anything?
Wrong. It was the same thing done the different way. When she did that little thing, which again, I didn't watch that game either, it wasn't directed at anybody. And also, Angel Reese actually walked over, stood there, tried to instigate something in the face. It's a little bit different. It actually reminds me of something that happened in boxing. I'll never forget when William Joppy got absolutely beheaded by Felix Trinidad in 2001 at the Madison Square Garden as part of the Don King middleweight tournament. And it's the loudest I have ever heard that building. It was like 20,000 raging Puerto Ricans waving their flags, beating their drums, and they thought Trinidad was going to murder Hopkins because Hopkins had beat Keith Holmes about 3 weeks earlier. Now, I've known Bernard very well for years, and I was one of the few guys that gave him a shot to beat Trinidad. And I remember leading into that promotion, he said, Steve, I want to tell you this right now. If these people think they're going to wave that flag right in my face, they're going to have something coming to them because I'm not taking it. So they did a press tour. They went to New York, and I think they went to Philadelphia, and it was very pro-Puerto Rican. So finally, Hopkins had had enough of this flag being waved in his face. Don King was not very neutral, even though he promoted both guys. So they're at Roberto Clemente Stadium. I'll never forget getting the phone call from one of Hopkins' camp members, Joe Lear, good friend of mine. So they're in a face-off, and it gets very heated, and Trinidad starts waving the flag right in his face. It wasn't just waving it towards the crowd or as a patriotic Puerto Rican, which he's allowed to do. But when he put that flag right in Bernard's face, Bernard said, I've had enough. He took the flag, slammed it down, and Bernard literally had to run for his life, him and the rest of that crew at Roberto Clemente Stadium. They had to sequester them in a dugout. No, honestly, and his life was in danger. And I got off one of my great lines of all time during my young boxing days at Max Boxing. I said, I will give Bernard Hopkins credit. It took 10,000 Puerto Ricans to make him run. With Oscar De La Hoya, it only took one. And the De La Hoya fans, they've hated me since that day. I had to get it off. It's probably one of the greatest lines I've ever had. But again, yes, they both did that little gesture, which, by the way, isn't that about 7 years played out? Why don't you just do the Dougie or the Cabbage Patch next? But I think there's a difference between doing it and then instigating it right in someone's face. For someone to say it's exactly the same thing, that is not honest.
And listen, let's say Caitlin Clark had done that to Angel Reese right after she lost the national championship game. And Angel Reese had punched Caitlin Clark. These very same people would say, you get in my face like that, she got what she had coming. Caitlin Clark ignored it, played above it. And again, Caitlin Clark is playing a game of chess against a bunch of checkers players. Because if the LSU players had taken the high road and after the game said, hey, Caitlin Clark is a hot dog, she plays with a swagger that we couldn't get away with, we weren't going to engage in that, everybody would be talking about Caitlin Clark as a hot dog instead of talking about how classless Angel Reese is, because Angel Reese, instead of saying, hey, Caitlin Clark is a hot dog and we're not going to stoop as low as her, now she stooped well beneath her and could have sparked a fight, and everybody knows it. I want to play you the clip of Shannon Sharpe, who's doing Shannon Sharpe things, as well as everybody else, all the other members of ESPN and Fox Sports. But I want your reaction to Shannon Sharpe's take on this. Play the clip.
This is about the portrayal of how women, we see it two different ways. 48 hours ago when Caitlin Clark did this, John Cena, it was considered swag. 48 hours later, Angel Reese does the exact same gesture. It's classless. Keith Olbermann went as far as to say she was an idiot. Not just an idiot, an effing idiot. For you to stoop so low to call a college kid, a female, because she did a gesture, when you didn't say anything when Caitlin Clark did it. It's funny how, Skip, it's funny how America. Society sees black and white. White person does the exact same gesture. Skip, you know one of the greatest talkers in NBA history, you covered the guy, was Larry Bird. He was never criticized. One of the greatest talkers in NFL football is who? Phillip Rivers. He was never criticized. Angel Reese talked about this all year. Skip, if you remember 48 hours earlier, Don Staley foretold of this. Many chalked it up as being sour grapes because she had lost. And lo and behold, everything that she spoke of came to fruition the moment Angel Reese did that gesture. The moment she did this and the moment she started pointing at her finger talking about she about to get a ring, Twitter went, it started trending and it went into a haywire. And I was just there to read the comments. I didn't want to see the comments. I'm like, really? I'm like, one of our own, Danny Cannell, that used to work here, talking about it was classless. Who? Danny Cannell.
Oh, Danny Cannell.
Yeah, okay. Skip, I'm like, hold on. So I went back and see, did he say anything about Caitlin Clark? Was it classless when she did it? No, nothing. Everybody loved it. Skip, a lot of these women in college basketball, a lot of the black athletes, they have their hair they have their lashes on, they have their nails done. A lot of them are tatted up, some of them had dreads. So they don't project the role. And like she said, I don't fit your image. I don't fit the box that you want me to fit in. And I'm cool with that. Angel Reese is what we call, she said unapologetically me, she meant unapologetically black.
Yes.
And she was talking about the little black girl. Don't you feel some type of way? You represent who you are. You stand proud and you stand on what you believe in.
So eyelashes, tattoos, and dreads are unapologetically black. Again,
well, hold on.
Shannon
Jason?
Sharp's not very bright.
Jason?
Yeah.
Shannon Sharp just unapologetically listed the reasons why he doesn't date black women. Okay, I think this defense of Angel Reese is probably as close as they'll ever come to dating a black woman. But I do think there's an issue here. I will say this. I think that the way we perceive gender in sports affects something here in terms of the way we perceive it. That with men, we kind of expect it. And it is thought about as, hey, look at these guys, or it's competitive, blah, 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 the testosterone. With female athletes, whether it's true or not, we might actually expect a little bit more in terms of being demure, maybe being less demonstrative, even though I'm not so sure that's necessarily true. But Jason, I'm going to make a proclamation right now. If LSU, and I don't know if Angel Reese comes back next year. I'm not exactly doing my mock WNBA
She's a sophomore.
Draft.
She'll be back.
So she will not be on my mock WNBA draft coming up. Okay, that we'll discuss in a few months, I'm sure, right? But I want LSU to schedule a game against Memphis. And I want her to do that because that's a game I'll watch, at least the last minute. I will at least watch the handshake line because that will be something fiery, But, you talk about what are the expectations of sportsmanship at the college level and with athletes. Jason, I'll never forget that 1990 year that I referenced with Miami. They played a game at Cal Berkeley after they lost to BYU. And that team went buck wild. I've said it before. It looked like our team was coached by Don Cornelius, that particular game, and not Dennis Erickson. I mean, we did every hip-hop dance. We did the Running Man, the Humpty Hump, the Sweat Hog Slap. Randall Hill did the George Jefferson. It got so bad that when the team came back, and I know guys on that team, Dennis Erickson was forced to apologize and to promise, we're going to behave. We're going to play the right way. And for the rest of the year, it was okay till the Cotton Bowl. So I can't be a hypocrite and say that I hate it. I actually think it's okay. It's part of it. But to say that the two gestures were exactly alike, from Caitlin Clark doing it kind of to nobody in particular, and to coming up to someone after the game and standing in front of her face, again, we're allowed to have a little context here.
Well, we're allowed to have some facts and truth. But here's how little self-awareness Shannon Sharp has. Larry Bird, he was one of the biggest trash talkers, and nobody criticized him. Phillip Rivers was one of the biggest trash talkers. Nobody criticized him. What was Shannon Sharp known for as an NFL player? Talking trash. Talking trash. He's got the great video of him on the sidelines calling 911 or something, or I can't remember. But Shannon Sharp was known for talking trash. And what did anyone criticize him, or did that lead CBS to hire him to do the NFL Today show? He did that for a decade. Did that lead Fox Sports to hiring him to work opposite Skip Bayless? And he's done that for now closing in on close to a decade or 7-8 years, however long it's been. He's made money. He's been rewarded for trash talking. And he's acting like, well, only Larry Bird and only Phillip Rivers, they weren't criticized. Not only weren't they, but they also weren't over the top praised and gushed about and offered, hey, come trash talk on TV for me for millions of dollars. That's been Shannon Sharp's life. To act like there's some kind of racial double standard. Angel Reese for talking this kind of trash. Trust me, ESPN can't wait for her to finish her basketball career so they can put her on TV and she can act a buffoon just like Shannon Sharp for money, so she can bojangle for dollars. The other point they're making about Danny Cannell, no one criticized after the Louisville game. 2.5 million people watched the Louisville game. That's a nice number for women's college basketball. But that's not saturation coverage. That's not, many people. I didn't watch the Louisville game. Many people did not tune in until the Final Four. 10 million people were watching this, in my estimation, yesterday. And so people paid more attention to it. Plus, it was a longer, more in-your-face deal than what the girl did at Louisville. So it going around saying, Danny Cannell didn't criticize her after Louisville. He probably wasn't watching like most of America. And it was so brief and so insignificant, nobody mentioned it. Everything they're arguing is a lie stacked on top of another lie. I just don't understand how long this can continue. This whataboutism is like the only thing any of these guys have to offer. It's the only thing they're not. It feels like they're not smart enough to argue anything else.
Well, Jason, I was this close on the Twitter timeline to dropping a few quote retweets with "What about Favre?" I mean, give me a break. I mean, here's the interesting thing: the Shannon Sharp, that famous scene was from 1996. They're blowing out the Patriots, and it was great because NFL Films was right on the sideline. And he said, Mr. President, we are killing the Patriots. Please send help. And that became like his thing. And 2 years later, you mentioned this game a lot. You had to have been there. He got under the skin of Derek Thomas on the Monday night game so bad that I think Derek had like 3 straight personal fouls. And Marty Schottenheimer said, son, you got to get off the sideline. You have lost it. And nobody said, how can Shannon do that to a fellow competitor? It's like, you know what? He got underneath his skin. He gets points for that. I mean, the reality is, look, I think one of the issues that people have is with Keith Olbermann, he forgot who he consistently panders to. And because of that, he was not allowed to be honest. Look, I have no issues whether I agree or disagree with anybody. If you think Angel Reese is the patron saint of women's basketball, the next Lisa Leslie, great. If you also think she's a terrible character, low character individual, that's going to be the worst thing for American society, you know what? You're allowed to have that opinion too. It's really funny to hear a lot of these white journalists go out of their way. And again, this performative wokeness to just absolutely say there's nothing going on here. I'm like, okay, we get it. You're not racist. You're not racist. You put up the BLM sign on your front lawn. But I do want to give old Caitlin Clark credit. You know what? You're not the national champion. But since you knocked off a Don Staley coach team, Caitlin, you are America's champion. You are a fine individual. And to cause that meltdown of one Don Staley, who I thought made a complete ass out of herself. Yeah, I said it. For her to say that we should not be generalizing people and stereotyping, I'm thinking, yeah, right, like you did the whole BYU community. Cue Alanis Morissette, because that is ironic. 1,000 spoons when all you need is a knife.
Thank you, Steve. Great job. We're going to go to TJ Moe, but before we do that, slam those likes, 10,000 likes. If you're on Apple, give me the 5-star review. I need 30 written reviews. I need 100 5-star reviews. Step up. This show is awesome. TJ Mo, next. All right, welcome back. Let's roll out to the Show Me Kid, TJ Mo, former SEC athlete himself. TJ, what do you think of LSU and the way Angel Reese behaved? And what do you think of my argument that I made with JB earlier in the show that Kim Mulkey deserves some blame here, her behavior on the sidelines and her desperation, in my view, the contract that LSU gave her to lure her away from Baylor, and then the money they spent on this transfer portal team put a lot of pressure on Kim Mulkey and made her, in my view, abandon some of the principles and ethics that she was known for at Baylor. But this, again, you pile all that money on top of each other, that's piling on a lot of pressure, and you just start looking the other way in order to justify all that money spent.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the first thing is I hate the instinct of running to the other team when you just win a national championship. I can't stand that. Like the idea that you have been working for something your entire life, succeed at the highest level. Because I would imagine, I don't know what the ratings will be. There are probably more people watching that game than ever watches the WNBA championship. I don't know the WNBA championship exists to anybody. Yeah. So that's the biggest. I mean, that was the highest rated women's basketball game ever, was it not?
It will. The numbers aren't out yet, but it'll be close. Yeah.
So the biggest moment of your life, whether you go to the WNBA or not, your first instinct is to walk over and taunt the other team instead of celebrate with a group of people that helped you accomplish that. So I hate that. I can't stand it. I do believe Kim Mulkey is part of the issue there, but they're making it so hard on these coaches. The issue with the coach today is that you don't get to give your values because your values don't really matter. Winning matters because these kids are all getting paid now. So you try to be, once upon a time, try to be a mother figure, a father figure. There are no Bobby Bowdens left. It's just, if you don't give them exactly what they want today, they're going to transfer and they're going to get paid X amount of dollars somewhere else to go do that. The transfer portal and the NIL, both of which I was an advocate for once upon a time, thinking that it was unfair to these kids who only get 4 years to play. And I'm totally on the other side now. I'm like, look, you make a decision and you stick with it. And so I was wrong. You can find audio of me saying exactly the opposite of what I'm saying right now. But I'm telling you that the issue with college sports is that. And so Kim Mulkey's in a very difficult position. I will tell you this, and again, particularly being a white coach with black players is incredibly hard. When the entire world is telling these black players, hey, look out. These white coaches and your white counterparts, it may not be explicit bias, but there's implicit bias, and you need to be on the lookout for it all the time. And there are these ghosts of racism, and there's microaggressions, and so you need to be woke. Be on the watch, because somebody's coming after you all the time. So it's like these coaches, this is why they pander, and this is the same thing. I mean, where I really buy into what you're saying is that I think it was a weird dichotomy. I mean, I even talked to some of my friends who just casual sports. Okay, let's be honest. Anybody who's watching women's basketball is a casual observer because nobody's ever watched women's basketball. So all of us casual observers are like, it was weird watching a team full of white girls play a team full of black girls. That was weird. And so normally there is some integration. There wasn't. And that in college is not super normal. In high school, it's a little more normal because it's where you live. You live closer to people that look like you usually. You get the suburban teams are all white, city teams are all black. I had that a lot in high school. And so I remember we would go to these jamborees or we would go to camps or whatever. And there would be a lot of white boy, go back to the suburbs where you belong. and this is our turf, this is our arena. There was a whole lot of that. And so 5 touchdowns later, they didn't have a lot to say. But that was it. We were not super intimidating. As you stood next to me, I'm 6 feet tall, in high school, 180 pounds. People don't know if you're any good. And I think the average white person is intimidated by the average black athlete. If they're honest about it, that's true, particularly in high school. But this was a situation where the girl with the most swagger on the court was a white girl. She was also the best player, and the only reason 10 million people were watching the game last night. And so I think where I really buy what you're saying is there was a little bit at the end of the game of, hey, white girl, go back to the suburbs where you belong. This is our arena.
There was a lot of that. And where they're wrong and short-sighted, and again, they're kids in college. I understand them being short-sighted. And I understand Kim Mulkey not wanting them to have long vision in this moment. She just, whatever will motivate her players to destroy Caitlin Clark and Iowa, Kim Mulkey's just going to roll with. And this whole system of social media and corporate media has told every young black athlete and every young black person, your greatest motivation should be your skin color and overcoming perceived racism and stomping out white people. And so Kim Mulkey, I don't even know if she had to say anything. She just let her girls text with the South Carolina players, and Don Staley may as well have given them the pregame speech. And so they go out there with all this racial animosity, and they got to destroy Caitlin Clark. And one girl, Angel Reese, doesn't know when to turn it off. She goes too far, and it looks bad. But the other thing that no one's talking about, and again, this goes to the racial element, and it would be talked about if the roles had reversed. If Iowa had won that championship and not one of their players gone through the handshake line, as none of the LSU players did, that's another bridge too far and would be being discussed. And so I don't have a problem. I was a huge Magic Johnson fan as a kid. Huge. I mean, my favorite athlete up until Tiger Woods. I used to keep my own stats when Magic Johnson played on national TV because I thought they were cheating him out of rebounds and assists. That's how silly and stupid I was. But it was like Magic versus Larry Bird was just like a running joke between me and my white friends. And all the black dudes, we all love Magic, and we'd argue with the white dudes about Larry Bird and who was better. But now it's not good-natured, it's not, it just seems to carry this really, really, oh, the other side is evil angle to it that wasn't there when I was a kid. And that's what I find so discomforting and disturbing. But I do agree with you and your take that Kim Mulkey's in a tough spot. You make a great point in terms of like, hey, look, these are basically pro athletes now. They're getting paid. They will leave at the drop of a hat. And so maybe it's not the contract that Kim Mulkey got or the money spent. Well, it is the money spent on the players, but maybe Kim Mulkey has just realized that, look, they've changed this game. This isn't about me transferring any of my values to any of these kids. It is simply about winning and losing. And that's what we saw. That's what's rewarded. And I think the other aspect, and I'm rambling a bit here, but I actually think this is all going to work for women's basketball. That women's basketball, college basketball, perhaps sooner than we all realize, will be more popular than men's college basketball. Because the players do stick around for 4 or 5 years. And so, again, I can't wait for next year for Caitlin Clark. Brandon Miller, the Alabama kid, is going to go off to college. I don't know any other men's college basketball players. I now know Caitlin Clark. I now know Angel Reese. And there's some girl named Paige at UConn that people keep telling me about, that she may be better than Caitlin Clark. But I am going to be interested next year. I have far more interest in the next season of women's college basketball than I do men's college basketball.
Yeah, particularly from a national perspective, right? Because I still love Mizzou basketball, and I want to watch my team win. I would assume you're the same with Ball State. Like, you'll watch Ball State basketball. Yes. But I don't know. Brandon Miller is the only player that I knew the name of outside of Missouri basketball, and that's only because he maybe should have been arrested, right? And that's it. It wasn't for on the court stuff. It was because of the national story that happened off the court. And so I do agree with that, and I agree that you can't build a national following. It helps too that when I've watched women's basketball in the past, it's a lot of set shots. It's a lot of fundamental bounce pass here, layup here, and you watch Caitlin Clark, and you're watching Steph Curry. Fadeaway threes and coming off a pick, like she's playing like the boys. That's fun to watch. And so she couldn't have gotten me, no matter how much they talked about her. If I would have tuned in and it looked like Diana Taurasi back in 2003 or whenever she was playing for UConn, I'm not interested. It's actually because of how she played. And by the way, way more black girls play that way than white girls. It just so happens that she's the best shooter of them, and she may be the quickest of them, so she's dangerous. And so that's what made it fun for me to watch. To hit on your previous point about them becoming pro athletes, do you remember Steve Spurrier when he went to Washington and came back? What one of his first quotes was, "I don't like the pros. I like the college kids. They're easier to control." And that's because you weren't paying them yet, and they couldn't just leave, and they had to respect authority. In the pros, you just demand a trade, or you're replaceable in the pros, and they just cut you. But when you only have a certain allotment of scholarships and that kid doesn't want to waste one out of his 4 years in order to transfer, you got him pretty locked in. You can be harsh. You can actually deliver your values to these people and say, you've got to weather the storm, and I believe you have the character to do this. That's why I recruited you. And you may hate me for 2 years, but you're going to love me the final 2 years when we've shaped you into the person and the player you need to be to contribute to the team in the manner that which we need. And you can't do that anymore. Now it's like, hey, we're paying these guys $200,000 and they're going to leave. So, either play them or don't.
It's funny you say that. I was in college, the antithesis of who I was in high school. I was totally uncoachable in college, couldn't stand my head coach. And it literally wasn't until maybe 10 years after I was done playing that I had to acknowledge that my coaches, even the ones that my first offensive line coach, couldn't stand the guy. And I've had to admit they were right, and that many of the values they were preaching were right, and I wish I had been more accepting of them. And so there is, and thank God I stuck it out for 4 years, should have stuck it out for a 5th year. That was my mistake, but I wanted to get on with the rest of my life. But anyway, thank you, TJ. I got to keep it moving. Royce White and 10,000 likes. You better be slamming that like button right now. 10,000 likes. Royce White next. All right, welcome back. Last but not least, we're going to go deeper on this topic and bring in Morpheus, Royce White, switch up. We're going to still talk about the same thing, but take a few little different angles on it here with Royce in these final moments of the show. I think we got plenty of time here for Royce so he can unpack some big ideas. But Royce, I'm going to start you off with a layup. Dave Portnoy and Keith Olbermann are the justification for virtually all the outrage over social media. Portnoy called Angel Reese a piece of poop. Keith Olbermann called her an effing idiot. I never expected those two guys to come down on the same side of a topic, but they did. I'm wondering should we read anything into that the founder of Barstool and the most deranged man of left-wing politics are on the same side of this issue?
Well, yeah. Well, number one, I think they're both cucks, so let's throw that out there. But yeah, the motif is the same. I mean, they're the same archetype, right? They're centrist, status quo purveyors. Dave Portnoy has found himself over on the more comedic parody style of journalism there at Barstool and some of the stuff that he does. But he's a Judeo-Buddhist to the max. You know what I mean? He's a guy who was born Jewish and then all of a sudden wants to renounce his Abrahamic faith for a little chain with a Buddha on it. So he's one of those meditate 7 times a day to deal with his despair type of guys. He's a cuck. And Keith Olbermann is the same guy, really. Douses himself in politics a little bit more to deal with his despair, but they're the exact same guy. And even furthermore, what's most ironic about this whole deal with those two is this is exactly who black women vote for. This is exactly who black women all across this country have decided to vote for at 98%. These two individuals right here.
Elaborate on that.
But this is Pete Buttigieg. This is Joe Biden. This is the motif. The Dave Portnoys and the Keith Olbermanns. These are the Donald Trump detractors. These are the rabid Democrat supporters. And I know Portnoy will say that he's not a Democrat or he's not a liberal. He puts on that shtick, but he's a rhino. If anything, he's a rhino for sure. But this is the purveyors of the status quo. This is the white man that the black woman has come to vote for in this country ad nauseum.
And that person thinks black women are pieces of poop and effing idiots?
Well, not that. I mean, it's that when black women serve the purpose.
Oh, I actually think they do, but anyway, you go ahead and tell me why I'm wrong.
No. Well, no, that's definitely a part of it. Don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is when you blend culture and politics in a political sense, as long as black women are willing to serve the agenda of the white liberal male, then they hold her in this high regard and they revere her and they respect her and they give her all of this praise and so on and so forth. But as soon as she steps on their cultural toes in some abstract, hyperbolic way, like has happened here in this situation with Keith Olbermann and Portnoy, they're the first ones to try and come down and drop the hammer on them. So it's all an act for them. Their whole cultural equality thing is a political ploy.
Here's where my head went watching this, Royce, and I'm wondering, as an athlete, your reaction. There's this myth or belief that, oh boy, once we install this matriarchy, women are so much better than men. Women, they don't really like conflict. Women won't choose war. Women are just so much better than men and so much more well-behaved. And I completely disagree. We've titled this show Bring It On because it reminds me of this movie, Bring It On, with these two rival cheerleading groups, one from the hood, one from the suburbs. That's what this was, and I'm not surprised that one of these groups got triggered and went too far and went further. Again, I've seen men compete like dogs during a game and talk trash to each other during a game, but I just don't have any memories of men winning a championship and chasing down their opponent to taunt them, to get in their face and try to provoke something. Because trust me, if that little white girl had been following Angel Reese around trying to taunt her when Angel Reese had just lost the biggest game of her career, hands would have been thrown and everybody would be justifying Angel Reese for throwing those hands. How dare she taunt her in one of the toughest moments and blah. And so my whole point is just like this myth that the matriarchy and matriarchal leadership is going to produce this better world. It's all bogus BS. Women can't stand each other. They're more, and men are petty and jealous too, but I just think women are even more. And I see all of this driven by pettiness and jealousy over this little white girl being the most exciting thing to happen in women's basketball. And Don Staley and all the little black girls and women are throwing a tantrum.
Well, let me give you the athlete perspective, and I may disagree with you a little bit on this whole issue in some regard, but let's separate the issues out if I can. The idea that matriarchal society would be less violent than a patriarchal society is ridiculous. The violence shown by women is largely mediated by the potential of violence from men. We don't live in a vacuum. We don't live in isolation, men and women. So a lot of what women do and don't do is mediated by what men, by the proposition of men and vice versa. Women have the potential to be just as vicious, just as malicious, just as malevolent as men do, if not more. The way that women tend to manifest violence is through reputation tarnishment, and that's why you see the emergence of the Me Too movement. And if you go back historically, the Emmett Till story and many other times where women will use, even against other women, they will use reputation tarnishment and slander and sexual innuendo to attack their enemies. Men go straight to physical violence more often. When it comes to this situation, though, I must say, I really, really dislike. And you know me. I mean, I left the NBA because the NBA has this sort of thin veneer of political correctness. We could call it correct political behavior. It has this thin veneer of that, and it tries to promote that or tout that around as a sign of its moral clarity or its moral, its ethics,
superiority,
and it's ethical superiority. I know it's a scam. I mean, come on, what are we talking about? Everybody comes to the NCAA games to get drunk. You guys are drunks. I remember, I love when Roy McIlroy said it. It was kind of a snowflake move, but it was true nonetheless, and it was funny. Roy McIlroy was on the PGA Tour, and he goes, "People are getting way too drunk out here," right? I thought that was brilliant. I loved that. I was like, dude, it's true, and I know it because I came from. And look, I love college sports. And I played, and I loved Hilton Coliseum, Hilton Magic. I loved playing at Iowa State, and there were a lot of people who got drunk there. I'm just saying that when it comes to some of these issues, we draw down an ethical criteria for our athletes that we don't expect for the entire community of sports writ large. And in this case specifically, I don't know what really went down, but I don't know the history, the backstory between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark in that game. I don't know if they had exchanged words. I don't know what the case may be. Doesn't really matter to me. What she did was corny, in my opinion. I mean, it was cringy. Like, she went out of her way to make this face and do this gesture. That was just corny. But if she had gotten her face and said, go home or warm up the bus or something else that was less overt than what she did, I don't know if I have a problem with it. I think that athletes should be able to show exactly what we've set the athletic arena up to be. Barbarism. It's our way to exhibit that barbarism that comes from an ancient time. And we've baked that into our society. The Dave Portnoys and the Keith Olbermanns have baked that into our society to negate the need for war and physical conflict. They're pacifists. They think there's an intellectual answer to every single issue. And they're willing to try and corrupt the game, the field, in order to create that intellectualized answer. But sometimes people have to go to blows. Sometimes there will be wars. The question is, are those wars and those fights righteous and divine? And in this case, it's petty, right? Because it's over a basketball game. But in sports in general, look, I left basketball to go fight MMA because I like the prospect that it's a blood sport. Now we all know what we're here for. You come to get drunk and jerk off. You bring your kids, and you bring your kids to a blood sport. You want to watch me knock another man unconscious or vice versa. We all know what we're here for. In a team sport like basketball, especially women's basketball, there's a lot of BS about what everybody's there for. Let's say that.
I don't know if I do think there's some disagreement here, Royce, because I think there is some good in take hockey, for instance. Everybody used to. I went to a Predators game here recently. I was like, man, hockey's not as physical as I remember, but hockey used to very physical game. They drop gloves, they fight, they blah blah. As soon as the game's over, they get in a handshake line and act like they weren't just trying to kill each other until the next time they drop the puck, and all those things are on the table again. When I played football, part of the whole process of playing on Saturdays was mentally all week you're lathering yourself up into this anger that you want to explode on Saturday. And then as soon as the game's over, it's like, you shake the other guy's hand and you walk off the field, and it's no big deal. I think there's something healthy in that. Men, competitors, women, men, or whatever, taking out their aggression in a controlled environment and leaving it there rather than having it spill over into other things. And again, it's not that it doesn't spill over, because I certainly was involved in some idiot behavior off the field that, occasionally turned violent or whatever. But I just think there's something healthy about teaching competitive people and hyper-aggressive people how to put some discipline around their emotions and their anger, and when it's appropriate to use physical force.
Well, and I totally agree with you. And to be honest, as an athlete and as somebody who now coaches or trains young athletes in multiple sports, I do see the benefit of it. It's an ingenious mechanism to introduce to a society that's trying to be a post-war, post-conflict society, right? A civilized society, for lack of a better term. We're trying to be a non-violent society. That's part of the moniker civilized in our culture. I think there's great benefit to it. I think there's a great lie being told, and I think that great lie bubbles up in these young athletes. I think that great lie bubbles up in these professional athletes. And I think the lie is that what the lie for the athlete is, we know that the entire game is this kind of distractionary false catharsis from bigger issues. We understand that. No athlete that you would go and talk to, whether they're politically aware or not, they know what the game is intended to do at a spiritual level. We all know. You and I know. You and I know the game, the LSU game, is meant to distract us from the Chinese petro-yuan and the war there in Russia and Ukraine and the dollar crashing. We know it. We all know it. I'm not trying to take us off script. We know it. We all know this. It's meant to distract us from Joe Biden. And that has nothing to do with the athletes. It has nothing to do with their sacrifice. It has nothing to do with their hard work. It has nothing to do with the coach. It has nothing to do with the fans who genuinely love the game. But it does serve both purposes, and the athletes know it deep down, and they resent it. That's why Russell Westbrook flips out the way he does. That's a large part of it. Now, he's a punk, and he's a prima donna, and he's woke, and he's got his mind all twisted up in a bunch of intellectual woo-woo, but that is a part of it. Understand, the athletes understand. And that resentment and that frustration bubbles up and it turns into anger and sometimes violence. And my whole point is, why do we respond the way we do when we see it? Like, we all know it's a jerk off. Why do we respond the way we do? Look, we all know if we create a post.
To my fans.
We all watching. Yeah,
observers.
We all watching. Observers watching. Be us, the fans, the journalists, the commentators. Why do we respond this way? Look, we know if we create a post-World War II democratic world order based on crony capitalism and piracy and drugs and slavery, that two countries on the Eurasian landmass are going to come to blows. We know it. So why, when it happens, do we go, oh, my goodness, I wish Vladimir Putin would act more adult? No, you don't. No, you don't. You like watching the firecrackers go off. We all do, kind of. We're kind of weird like that. People like drama, and if drama isn't real, we'll manufacture it. And that's what the entire NCAA tournament is, for in large part. for the fans.
I also think it's a great window to look at the rest of society. I think when I watch sports, it's a reflection of the society at large. And so I'm looking out and I see this Angel Reese behaving in a way that's classless in my view. I believe the society rewards her classlessness and baits her classlessness. That's why no one's criticizing her. Whereas in real time, I played clips earlier where Baker Mayfield, Johnny Manziel, they act out in similar ways. They get criticized in real time by the broadcasters. Like, hey, this isn't, but they're all afraid to do this with black athletes. And they won't. And it's because, again, they want to bait that type of behavior from black kids. They want black women out of control of their emotions. They want them acting in a classless way. And it's like the maintaining of these two different cultures. And this will be the last thing I'll put in front of you, but someone put together a video that showed the Iowa basketball team listening to some type of pop love song type music and then juxtaposed it with the LSU basketball team listening to hip hop music and, called it a culture clash. And I do believe it's a culture clash. I do believe it's a form, and it's a programming that pop culture does to black and white in this country. And we all sit around and act like it's normal. I think we have that. I want to play this clip of the two different groups and how they respond to music and what type of music they're listening to. Play the clip. That's fascinating to me.
I mean, if you want to go here, I knew you wanted to set me off today. You wanted to set me off, so let's just get to it. I try to give the broadest, deepest, just most middle of the aisle. Not trying to be a centrist, but just try to be above the fray. Let's just get to the nitty gritty here, okay? The culture clash is real. Right. I mean, nobody can deny that. You can hear the music. If you know music, you can hear the music and understand the difference in energy from the music. Now, I would venture to guess that the Iowa girls listen to a lot of that Little Boosie music in some of their spare time as well. And we know that hip hop would not have become what hip hop is today if rural and suburban white kids didn't listen to hip hop and consume hip hop and pay for it, by the way. There's a time where black people were listening to on the radio and just downloading it, but white folks actually consume and buy it. So there's that to be said. But let's talk about the LSU song more specifically, and I want to mention this. Because I've seen a couple of Little Boosie's interviews, and we all know the story about Little Boosie. Little Boosie, in and out of jail, went through a lot of different things in terms of being involved in potential homicides, murder charges. He beat him, so on and so forth. There was an entire free Boosie phenomenon in my generation, and the millennials. We remember the free Little Boosie era. The content of the music. Let's be realistic around the country, right? Because I'm not one to just bash hip hop in some sort of lukewarm, weird Republican way. But let's just ask ourselves as black people, can we imagine that we live in a technological society advanced enough to weaponize the frequency and rhythmic pattern of music to encourage us to be self-destructive? And if that's not the case, Why is it that so many young black men around this country are plagued by a combination of rap music? Now, I'm not just saying the music, young rappers. I was watching a documentary the other day, Jason, on the Bronx, on the what's going on in the Bronx in New York City. And there are a bunch of young rappers from like 15 to 17 age that are involved in what's called New York City drill, which is an offshoot from Chicago drill music. Now you got Chicago drill music was Chief Keef and Lil Reese and that whole OTF, which King Von and Lil Durk, that whole crew. But then they have New York City drill music that popped up over the last 4 or 5 years. The murder rate in New York City is so bad. The circumstance in New York City is so bad. New York City has advanced severity to gun laws, being caught with a loaded weapon. Young black men are shooting each other in front of surveillance cameras and brandishing those weapons days later on their Instagram. Yeah, something's wrong, and it's cultural. And it's not really a culture clash in that basketball game, but there's a culture clash in America. Now, the funniest thing about it is, Jason, to show you the double cross and the triple cross, is that the same people who listen to the teeny bop white folks music and the people who listen to the drill music, they all vote the same way. Imagine that. Many of the people who listen to your snowflake, teeny bop pop white music vote the same way the people do who listen to the the Louisiana hip hop music. Ain't that strange? Now, I don't want to make a broad comment about the music industry, but we got to be realistic about what's going on here. I can't be involved in a conversation and not be realistic about what's going on here. I'm looking at how you can herd two people with two totally different cultures into the same shooting gallery where they vote for policies that undermine their citizenship. How does that happen? How powerful do you have to be? How much reach do you have to have? How much globalism are you involved with when you can get two completely different groups of people, historically and culturally, to vote the same way when their rhythmic palette is so different that it's literally black and white? How does that happen? Now, we can talk about what the hip-hop does to black music. As I said, that there's an epidemic in the black community, young black people being violent against each other. But I want to know how both these groups of people end up voting the same way.
I'll come at it a different way, not reducing it to the vote, but you're right, and I'm just saying vote a different way. But what is funny is that Iowa basketball team is just as likely to be woke and left-leaning as the LSU basketball team.
100%.
And they're listening to two different musics, and there does appear to be this great cultural clash, but they seem to have shared values, and that's why I find it comical. It's like, well, hold on. And again, I don't know anything about Caitlin Clark, and I don't want to speculate, but a lot of these high-level white super athletes, Megan Rapinoe and all these, they're all on the alphabet team, and they all are on the same team as the LSU, who hopping around to gang music or whatever. They're all peas of the same pod, and that's again, there's no unity really among them. There's just a grasp for political power that eventually, again, the people that sit there and say they're eventually going to eat their own is because they're eventually going to eat their own because they're doing this for political power. I don't think it's over shared values.
No, and this is what's obvious. Look at what's playing out in the media. This is the black woman and the white liberal establishment fighting for control of the Democrat vote, or the Democrat machine.
Power
let's
structure.
Say.
Yeah.
This is a fight on the left, and this is what I was saying from the beginning. Keith Olbermann, David Portnoy. Probably not Lil Boosie because he's been explicitly anti-LGBTQ, although he may not associate that with Democrat votes because That's how good of a mind trip they've played on black men. But your dominant hip hop figures, certainly your black female athletes, certainly your black female WNBA players or basketball players, they're all on the woke train. And they're all on the woke train shooting each other and stabbing each other in the back to drive the train. And that's what seems more stark to me when I look at it. I'm just sitting here going, look at these people line up to stab each other in the back. And out of all of it, the Caitlin Clarks and the Angel Reeses become a talking point of a game that's so much bigger than them individually, so much bigger than that basketball game. This has ramifications in Beijing. This is what I'm trying to convey to our audience, Jason. When you see it, when you see a Final Four, when you see the basketball game, this is what was laid out to create a stagnant political culture in the land of freedom and opportunity. If we can stagnate politics in the land of freedom, we can undermine freedom all around the world. And we'll use an Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark to do it. This is black and white, put black versus white while they make off with the green. And it's black and white on one side of the aisle, or it's black and white across the aisle. This is the game that's continuously played. And to be quite honest, with all that being said, I'll leave you with this. I saw Caitlin Clark play when she was in high school. She played against my little sister. My sister's was just a freshman at Wisconsin. She's transferring because Wisconsin's woke. Their coach is full on with the LGBTQ and BLM, and she probably doesn't like me, so sister's out of there. But I saw Caitlin Clark play in person when she was in high school. She's a killer. I love her. And I love that Boosie called her Larry Bird, because Larry Bird was a shit talker, and he was good at shit talking. And she don't really seem like she's afraid of black people, and I like that. I don't like white people in this country to tiptoe around and act afraid of black people because they've been brainwashed to be afraid of black people. They shouldn't be afraid. They should stand up for themselves. I like it, and I like the way she plays. Now, I think she got a little high on her horse. You know, she was playing well the whole tournament, but she ran up against a team that was a little bit deeper, had a few more dogs on their roster. And Angel got the better of her, and she talked a little shit because she got the better of her. And guess what? That's not really my concern, more or less. What I'm concerned about is how you get so many groups of people who believe they have a difference of culture to line up behind the same single file line with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Dave Portnoy, Michelle Obama, list goes on. Jamil Hill.
Royce, thank you. Great job as always. We covered a lot. Give me those 10,000 likes. We'll play tomorrow. We'll see you tomorrow.
Waiting for the countdown, coming off the breakdown, standing in line for freedom. Looking for a breakout, feeling like a standoff, nothing in life like freedom. Came in like a fighter, striking like a ladder, making all these moves for freedom. I want freedom. No negotiation, my sister, no relation. We all just wanna have freedom. Sitting on the corner, never been alone. I'm breaking my back for freedom. Blessed, we are living, get back. We are receiving, all deceiving. We all wanna be free. We want freedom. I wanna be. I wanna be. I wanna be.